Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Door number 39. Talked about last week it being the anniversary of the pandemic. One of the things that came out of that was us starting to do this. And we've always appreciated everyone that has gone and looked at the views and even joins us live. And as I'm saying that now, I want to make sure I click over in case anybody does join us live that I can get the questions. Facebook once again has kind of changed their format and the way the operating system. But this week is Sleep Week, and it's National Sleep Week. And I think the reason for that is daylight savings time and us bringing forward. There's we love talking about sleep. It's one of the things that we certainly source and try to learn more about, and we screen in great detail. It is the great dysregulator of all things because it just has such an impact on so many parts of our lives. And that we'll get into a little bit. We're going to go into kind of some corollary information and stats that occur during us springing forward, and not focus so much on the fallback piece. And then we'll kind of talk a little bit about some things that you can do, and then leave you with some tips to help you hopefully get good sleep. This week has probably been even more challenging due to the weather and us not seeing the sun as much. Feels like we're back in that pattern that we were 2 weeks ago of just not seeing the sun. I hadn't seen much this week, so that's also kind of helped or actually made the situation worse. So just some information on the daylight savings and the springing forward piece. And like I said, it's corollary. But one thing that they've noticed, and I don't know how far back they go on the data with this, or how many years back and how many decades back they go, but during that week when we spring forward, and even when we fall back for this intensive purposes, is they've noticed that there's been an 8% increase in strokes. There has been a 6% increase in fatal accidents. There's been an 11% increase in depression, and the way they're tracking that is through hospitalizations and ER visits and things like that. I think most people would maybe say that you're a little bit more grumpy because the sun's coming up much later. And so, especially for our teenagers, the ones that are doing high school, and especially in Mecklenburg County, now that we're more in a traditional schedule, they're getting up a lot earlier, and so they're not seeing the sun for several hours. And the ones that are doing virtual may not be seeing the sun much at all if there's how they're spending that time in their room. So the ones that are more susceptible to those changes and that spring forward and even fall back in this instance is the teenagers, and then people that already have chronic sleep issues. And the CDC says on average about 70 million Americans a year experience some sort of sleep problem. Throughout the lifetime, it's almost 100% chance that you are going to experience a sleep problem as an adult. So a lot of people are impacted, and who knows what the pandemic has done to those statistics. But it just shows that there are some things that occur when this event happens, and those things have negative consequences when it comes to our health and our driving, obviously. Um, so one of the things that it's impacting, or many of the things that it's impacting actually, is our cognition, our ability just to kind of ramp up. Since we're usually attuned to the sun rising, if you've got a teenager and they're jumping into school at 7:15 and the sun doesn't come out till at best 7:30 right now. It's going to get better every day. But so they're not getting that sunlight exposure, which signals to their brain to like, all right, let's get going. Let's start doing some stuff. Let's start doing some hard things, some hard cognitive things. And so that first block, that first period, they may be more zombie-like, and teenagers in general have a later sleep clock, and that's why they traditionally stay up later, as we talked about in other behind the doors. Um, so they're already struggling with that to begin with, and then you add on that now they're not exposed to sunlight like they would be, and so that compounds the problem. So they and adults too are having more problems getting that cognition going. when you have poor sleep, your immune system is more compromised, so you're more susceptible to colds and illnesses and things like that. And then obviously our mental health is impacted. Not gonna go into a lot of great detail. We've got plenty behind the doors on sleep that goes into a lot more detail about the impacts to your mental health. Just know that those hours between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. are very critical to not get exposed to light of any sort, just because you have a much higher rate of anxiety and depression, and it being impacted, your mental health being impacted in that way. And generally, as far as a sleep clock goes, anything within 20 some minutes, 24 minutes of when you were supposed to fall asleep, and then kind of go back and when you're going to get up. So if you're missing 24 minutes of your sleep, that's when you start seeing some of these impacts. And then they just scale, and they scale if it's, one night, 2 nights, a week, it's been a month, people that have insomnia and things like that. So the impact can be greater. So just know if you or a loved one had a poor night of sleep, that these are some of the things, some of the areas that's going to be impacted. Part of the reason for that is, and we've talked about this in an earlier behind the door, but um, most of your body has lymph nodes, and so that system's job is to kind of clean out the trash. And the brain doesn't have lymph nodes; they have what's called the glympathic system, and its job is to clean out the trash, but it only does that when you're sleeping. So that system only comes online when you're asleep. So that's another reason why it's really important that you get good sleep so you can clean out that trash, clean out that system, because the brain accounts for about 20 to 30% of the calories that you're going to burn in a day, just because it's doing so much, especially when you're doing hard tasks, cognitive tasks, and things like that. So you need to clean that trash out so there's not a buildup of trash, and you can start the day new and feel fresh, and hopefully everything goes the way it's supposed to go. So that's another big reason to get that good sleep. So as far as some tips, some things that you can do, it's important to try to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time. It actually has the greatest upside of having cognition, and boosting cognition, as opposed to if you, let's say you got 6 hours of sleep the night before, and then the next night's 8 hours, and then you may go back to seven. So if you're doing variant sleeping, the brain has a hard time getting in a rhythm. And so just through studies and research, they found that even if you only get 6 hours, but if you consistently get 6 hours, your brain functions better than if you're just kind of doing this dance of sleep in or get up early or I can't sleep. So if you can, go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time. And like I said before, we've said many of these behind the doors, is that we're rhythmic people, so you want to follow that rhythm. Obviously, no exercise, caffeine, blue light, before bed. Typically, with the blue light, cut it out an hour before bed, so it's not disrupting your melatonin. And caffeine, obviously, and exercise, because you don't get your blood pressure up. You want it to kind of be falling. And then if you're having trouble with that, and we've talked about these before, if you're having trouble falling asleep, you're kind of doing all the things you should do. You've got a good protocol, you got a good sleep regimen, and sleep hygiene. Some other things that you can do is some apps, and even some websites that focus on Headspace is one of the apps, but you can focus on meditation, sleep hypnosis, uh, mindfulness works, yoga nidra is also, and you can just Google these things, they'll come up, and most of them are free. So that will help you get into more a relaxed state because you're wanting to disconnect the mind from the body and focus more on the body, so the mind will calm. And so, you know, that's what you want to do when you're trying to get ready for bed or you can't fall asleep. And I know some people like to do melatonin. I would just say make sure you do your research. It's not a regulated industry because it's over the counter. And so the FDA doesn't have standards. So you don't always know what you're getting. And you want to make sure you're getting the right amount. There are some studies, especially in teens, that it delays puberty or interrupts puberty because the way it interacts with the adrenals. Um, and so one site that I recently learned of is called exam.com. You can go there and plug in any over-the-counter that you may be considering to help you with sleep. And it'll show you all the detailed studies, how relevant those studies are, how effective the studies were done, to what quality, and so you can get some good, unbiased information about something that you may be considering, or a friend told you or a parent told you to try because that helped them with their sleep. Um, and so that way you can kind of make your own decisions about, what is the best supplement for you to take if you're considering supplements. And obviously you can have conversations with your doctor or your pediatrician for your child, to give you some good insight as well. And so you can also go to examine.com for those things as well, just to kind of do your own research. It's always good to arm yourself with information as long as it's good, credible information. So those are all the things that I have today for as far as sleep goes. It's just so important to get. Hopefully, with today, the weather's, well, it's actually pretty foggy as I'm looking outside, and rainy. But I think this weekend's supposed to be nice, and so like we always say, like, get outside as much as you can, even if it's raining a little bit today and it's safe. Get outside, because you're going to get more effective light in the morning and in the evening when you need to kind of reset that circadian rhythm, being outside, than you would just being inside and getting that artificial light. So get outside as much as you can. Be safe. And I hope you have a great week and a weekend. Y'all take care. Bye.